Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time!
Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Taylor's gone. Come on, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
Pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Well, thank you so much. Glad to have you along for the ride on this Monday. Welcome aboard another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, rolling in from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, and it is tournament time. Unfortunately, a lot of your teams not playing. Indiana left out of the NCAA tournament on the men's side. The women find a number 9 seed in the NCAA tournament. Of course, we'll be talking about that. Indiana didn't necessarily deserve to be in, but the fact that North Carolina got in over them, that's a bad look to me for this committee, with Bubba Cunningham being the AD at North Carolina, and that's just a load of crap. Now, I don't think Indiana deserved to be in. Let me say that first, but North Carolina deserved to be in even less. So that's a joke, but we'll get to that. We've got plenty more. As over the weekend, the Indiana High School Athletic Association tournament, boys tournament, rolled along. Regional action. Greg Rakestraw joining us here in about 2 seconds, as soon as I can get things flipped around and get him on with us. Greg, how are you doing, sir?
Good morning, my friend. And by the way, I thought you couched the Indiana situation 1,000% correctly. Did the Hoosiers really belong in the NCAA tournament? Probably not. But they got much more of a claim of being there than the North Carolina Tar Heels. And again, when the selection committee is headed by the AD at North Carolina, perhaps yet another reason why we probably need to look at how we select the NCAA tournament a little bit differently. Now, is change going to happen? Absolutely not, because this is getting more and more like professional sports, where really the commissioner, whoever runs the organization, is doing it in pro sports, to benefit the owners. So in this case, to benefit the, Power 4, Power 5 schools, et cetera. So will change happen? No. And should we die on the hill of Indiana being a good enough basketball team to be an NCAA tournament team? Probably not. But if there was a team that absolutely deserved to be there less than Indiana did, it would be the University of North Carolina.
Yeah, they are 1-12 in quad 1 games. Not only that, they had a quad 3 loss at home to Stanford. Indiana had no losses other than a quad 1 loss. They did not lose quad 2, 3s, or 4 games. And again, I agree with you 1,000%. No, they didn't deserve to be in, but the fact that North Carolina got in with Bubba Cunningham as the head guy, I was like, oh, that's a horrible, horrible look. North Carolina was the last team about of anybody that deserved to be in. Plus, they played in the weakest conference possible. The ACC was horrible. But you know what? It's like you said, you hit the nail. It's not a hill to die on. It just shows a little bit of the hypocrisy that goes on. But this is another reason why we do not need expansion of the men's NCAA tournament.
Correct. And again, the opposite will happen. It'll get bumped to 72 or 76 because, again, it's CYA mode. And it's early enough in the morning. I won't explain what the back half of that is for those that need an explanation there. But, from a mathematics standpoint, I can argue for expanding the tournament, because it was 64 40 years ago, and there are probably 70 to 80 more teams that are at the Division I level than we had back then. So from a mathematics standpoint, I get it and I understand. But literally, we're having this discussion today because it involves the team down the street from you, literally, the team in our backyard in our state. But we say this every year. The bubble doesn't get better. It never does. This is probably the worst that it ever has been. And again, if we're talking about 14 teams out of one league that make the tournament, we don't need to expand the tournament. But again, I guarantee you, Jim, it's going to happen.
Oh, absolutely. And not only did they get now an SEC, without question, the best league in the country, maybe the best league in the history of college basketball.
Yes.
In one season. I have to give them that. But
Agreed.
there were also teams that got in that were not just below 500, but like way below 500. Didn't Oklahoma get in? And they were like
they did
four games below 500.
Right.
Yeah, there's just, it's Indiana's got bigger problems than who got in, who didn't get into the tournament this year. That's for certain.
Right.
But instead of that, let's spend some time since the regional action going on. A lot of action over the weekend. Now, just a little, I think, couple of upsets. Fort Wayne Blackhawk went down, but Fischer, my God, is that one of the all-time largest margins of victory in the history of regional play?
That's a great point, and I got to go back and look that up. I haven't thought about that, but you're right. And Jim, I was not at the Fischer's game. ISC produced it, but it was a constant theme. The two games I had on Saturday, Jim, were decided by 34 and 38 points. Now, other sites, we had some great games, and you hit on probably the game that catches the most people's attention in terms of Delta beating Blackhawk. And again, Delta is a team that has made the semi-state 3 years running. Their head coach and Mark Detweiler has done a tremendous job, and Delta does now play in a league that's going through some change. You look at Delta's losses, Greenfield, Mount Vernon, New Pal, as well as twice to Wapahani, and all of those teams other than Greenfield, who has Mr. Basketball, are still playing in the tournament. So we kind of look through the rearview mirror and say, all right, kind of that result makes sense. The other result that would not qualify as an upset, but certainly catches your attention because it was two really good teams meeting in the regional. It was New Pal thumping Guerin Catholic by 14. Guerin, that's got Brian Cardinal's son Bryson as their best player, who's a borderline Indiana All-Star. But New Pal is backing up what they have done all season long. The other theme that I would share with you in terms of 3A is what you've also heard me talk about this, because there is this influx of teams into 3A from the top end with the shrinking of 4A, and from the bottom end, like Brownstown and Blackhawk Christian. Of the 8 teams still left playing in 3A, 4 of them were not in that classification last year. 3 of them are coming from the top, East Chicago Central up north, New Pal and Attucks in the southern half of the bracket. And again, Brownstown is not in 3A on enrollment. They're on 3A on the success factor as they bumped up from making the semi-state and then winning 2A with Jack Benner over the course of the last couple of years.
And then we look at the other end, number one Fischer's, holy smokes, 89 to 39 over Harrison from West Lafayette. Wow. It's just that kind of a score is just unbelievable for us to expect to see in a regional game. But it is, and Fischer's we know they're good, daggone it, but they also apparently have an easier path to the state finals than they did through sectional play.
Yeah, but yes and no. Once they get out of their sectional, because they're such a good team, such a good cluster of teams in that part of the state, in theory, the path gets a little bit easier. Now, last year, that was Kokomo that was waiting for them in the regional, and that's the same sectional that Harrison came from. And Harrison's not a bad team. Fischer's is that good. If you have not played them, I don't think you have a way to replicate what you're in for. Their level of athleticism, their level of speed, frankly, their speed of thought, the way that they, share the basketball. Because of guys like Justin Kirby and John Anthony Hall, they frankly play above the rim. And there was a lot of aerial fireworks in that game against Harrison as well. I would say that there is such a gap from Fishers to everybody else that I don't think there is this huge, we have said in especially in football, hey, if you have to go through the northern half, it's easier than going through the southern half of the bracket. I still think that exists in football. I'm not sure as much in basketball. Now listen, Lawrence North, really solid team. Jeffersonville, really solid team. I'm not sure anybody other than Fishers is playing as good as Mount Vernon is, led by Luke Ertl. And again, Brownsburg, this was not one of their better teams, but Brownsburg hangs their hat on defense, and Mount Vernon torched them for 74 points. Brownsburg didn't give up more than 49 in the sectional, and they beat three really good teams to get there in terms of Avon, Plainfield, and Ben Davis, and Mount Vernon absolutely lit them up. So Fishers would have to run into Crown Point, Homestead, and then I'm spacing on the other team that they're going to see, South Bend Riley. And again, they beat South Bend Riley by 60 in the regular season. There's a caveat there. Several South Bend Riley players missed that game. Now, do I think South Bend Riley is going to beat Fishers? Probably not. That's probably more of a 15 to 20 point game this time around. So I'm not sure anybody has anything for Fishers, but I do think there is a benefit. If you have played them before, which South Bend Riley did this year, which Crown Point did last year in the semi-state, and which likely whomever they would see in the championship game, that team has likely seen them during the regular season as well.
As Jeffersonville rolls on, they keep their tournament hopes alive, and they have a showdown coming with 21-5 Mount Vernon. Jeffersonville 21-5. You've got Trey Singleton that is hoping to get a spot in the state championship. Now, and what people forget, this is in essence, there's only one semi-state game, right?
Two. No, we're back to two. So that flipped 3 years ago to having one game regional, 2 games semi-state. So, last year, Jeffersonville, same place at Newcastle. They played LN in the morning game and upset them and beat them. And they were basically about a minute away from doing the same to Ben Davis. They were within an eyelash of making the state finals last year. They certainly can do it this year. They have to beat the other 2 best teams to get there. Mount Vernon, again, is good. I think that's a very even matchup. It's 2 teams that share the ball significantly well. Jeff has a bit of a size advantage on Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon plays 6'5" and 6'6". I think Singleton and Douglas, and then you throw in Ray Laird, who's going to play football at the University of Indianapolis. I think they can be a little more physical. I also think that you're not going to stop Luke Ertl, but Michael Cooper matches him as well as anybody does athletically to be able to guard him. I think that game will be as good as any semi-state morning game that we have around the state. And then your reward, if you can get past Mount Vernon, is there's Lawrence North waiting for you. And Lawrence North will have your attention because of what happened last year. Remember, these 2 teams played in the regular season. They played back on January 4th. LN won by about 8. That was Singleton's second game back. And so, again, you can it's going to be a great game. Those are the games that I will have on the IHSAA Champions Network. Terre Haute North is the 4th team that is in that group. They're solid. I think there's a gap between them and the other 3. I can make a case for any of Mount Vernon, Jeffersonville, and Lawrence North winning that semi-state. I think the action at Newcastle will be really good.
Oh, looking forward to it. And in essence, the second semi-state game is a Final Four game, what used to be a Final Four game, right?
Correct. So the Saturday night game would be the equivalent of the state semifinal each class, correct?
Yeah. I hate that they lose that flavor, that moniker of saying, "Oh, we made it to the Final Four." Even if you lose, I guess maybe you haven't. I'm not sure. But how does
no, correct. Exactly from 1997 and before, you made the state finals by being in the semifinals. Now you have to be in the top 2 to be a state finalist. That's correct.
And then how many? There are only 2 semi-state locations, right? Besides Newcastle, where is the other one?
So 8 semi-state sites around Indiana.
I meant for each class.
Correct. So for 4A, it's Elkhart, But let me see if I can do this after doing the pairing show. Yes, I see this off the top of my head. Seymour for 1A, Washington for hang on. 1A for Seymour, 2A for Washington, 3A for Southport, 4A for Newcastle. In the northern half of the bracket, 1A for Lafayette Jeff, 2A for Michigan City, 3A then would be, come on, brain fade, Logansport, and then 4A would be Elkhart. There you go.
Well, I'm just, how do they, there's no 4A semi-state south of Indianapolis, which is just kind of odd. And it was just kind of odd how this week Jeffersonville and some teams traveled way far west to where there were teams traveling into that were from to locations to teams that then turn around. They were traveling to Seymour. It was really odd how they're doing the locations now.
So basically how it's done is now that the locations for regional and semi-state are determined basically once we know who the teams are, and trying to reduce travel as best you can. And so what you often have at these sites are, like, for example, Jeffersonville and Evansville Harrison met at Southridge, which is about as equal for both of those schools to get there as you possibly could. I think the other game at Southridge was a 3A game, I think. But like in Indianapolis, for example, we had 2 4A games at Southport just because there are so many 4A schools in the Indianapolis area. That was the easy central location. And that formula doesn't work for everybody. For example, Terre Haute North and Whiteland met each other at Washington, which probably wasn't overly convenient for either side. And the IHSAA also acknowledges there's kind of a dearth of schools in Northeast Indiana that seemingly have been willing or wanting to host a regional or semi-state. They're trying to fix that for next year. Because, like, for example, 2 Fort Wayne schools played each other driving over to Logansport. Everybody gets the fact that that's not good. They're going to try to fix that for next year as best they can. But yes, they announce on Saturday night before, literally after the sectionals, hey, here's who's going to what regional, and whom you play in the regional. That is already drawn as of the pairing show. And then yesterday we had the semi-state show where we say first, hey, here's where the teams are playing, and then we literally do the draw live on the air so fans can see it.
Well, we'll certainly look forward to all that action coming up as it comes to a head, baby. State finals action this weekend, and the NCAA tournament getting started. So a little bit of basketball going on around here, Greg.
Just a touch.
What's up next for you?
So I actually start my high school and college baseball season this week in addition to semi-state games. So little college softball tomorrow, little college baseball Friday and Sunday. But again, the semi-state site for me will be at Newcastle for the 4A South with games tipping off Saturday morning at 10 a.m.
Looking forward to it. Make sure you're giving Greg a follow, keeping up with all they have going at the ISC Sports Network as well as IHSA.org. They've got all the games. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, buddy.
Greg Rakestraw joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Plenty more coming. Fitz joins us next. We'll talk about the end of the season for Indiana and what is up next as the all eyes will turn to the coaching search for the Hoosiers. Question about the Crown Tournament, but I just don't see that happening. We'll get into all that and more on the backside when we return to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios right after this break.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza,
burgers, beer. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday. Glad to have you along, but happier to have the great one, Don Fischer, along instead of coming off of a weekend of Big Ten games for the Hoosiers. And unfortunately, that will be the end of the line for Don's game calling for the season, as well, we think most likely. I doubt we see Indiana in the Crown tournament, Don, but we'll get to the North Carolina Indiana thing. But Indiana had its opportunities along the way, and unfortunately, they do not find themselves in the tournament after losing to a good team in Oregon at the Big Ten tournament. The Big Ten tournament was chalk almost the whole way. I was watching, and it was like, and the first game that wasn't quote unquote officially chalk was, to me, it was chalk. It was the 5-4 Wisconsin UCLA game. The Wisconsin would win. So it went as we expected, and Indiana, there's no doubt they got screwed. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. You're not going to hear me talk this time. I'm going to say Indiana got screwed. Bubba Cunningham, if anybody wants to believe for 2 seconds that the fact North Carolina got in had nothing to do with their AD being the chairman of the committee, what a joke. But Indiana, I don't know that they didn't deserve to be in anyway, maybe. And maybe it's better off that they can move on and find where they need to be next. I don't know, but it is what it is.
Here's my question about that. How much input was there in regard to Indiana with a coach that had resigned during the season? How much of a factor was that involvement to the committee? Because, look, I said last week on your show, I said, everybody's talking about Indiana being on the bubble. I said, well, yes, they're on the bubble. There's no question about that, but they need to win the first game of this Big Ten tournament if they want to get off the bubble and guarantee that they'll be in the tournament itself. And I said, if they don't do that, they're right back where we don't want to see them, because then you leave it up to the committee to make a decision. And that decision they made yesterday, obviously, didn't affect Indiana in a positive way. So all I've been telling you was it needed to win that first game. You didn't do it. You got really no, I mean, yeah, you can bellyache about it all you want, and we can sit here and say, what were they thinking? And who was making that decision? But the fact of the matter is, Indiana put themselves in the spot that they could not be in if they wanted to make sure they were going to be in the tournament.
I absolutely agree 1,000%. And I don't know how much good it would have done for a team that has just really been in adversity for quite some time. That's not for me to answer anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Well, Jim, here's the thing too. I mean, Indiana didn't make it last year, right? No, right. 19-14, 10-10. What's their record this year? 19-13, 10-10. you know what? And then you got a coach that resigned during the season. So
and that's one thing I had not thought of, because we always think of injuries affecting seedings. We've seen that happen many times, both football and basketball. Florida State got it because of an injury. So that's a great point, that one that I had not thought of. So Indiana may, I wouldn't say that, but they're glad to not be in from a certain standpoint because they've got so much to work on. But it worked out how it worked out. Unfortunately, Indiana misses the tournament for the second season in a row. And I don't expect them. They are supposed to be playing in a crown tournament, but I don't expect for that to happen personally, because that thing doesn't start till the 31st, which that's ignorant to me. Why the hell would you have a tournament that starts so late? I mean, it's the regular tournament's almost over. The portal's already open. It's just all kinds of things there.
Have we even heard about the NIT? We haven't even heard about the NIT, have we?
NIT's out the door because of the crowd. If you're a Big Ten team, you don't even think about the NIT. At least not if you're Ohio State or Indiana, because you're supposed to be committed to playing in that.
In the crown tournament.
Yeah, because it's a Fox deal, and Fox has no relationship with the NCAA. So this is their effort to get some type of postseason tournament going, and they have an agreement with the Big Ten, the Big East, and the Big 12. And teams like Indiana and Ohio State, I think, are supposed to be committed to playing in it. But I'm pretty sure that a team like Indiana can get a waiver. Hell, they may not have half a roster by then. But I don't mean that negatively.
Right.
A lot of teams, that's why I'm surprised at the date. A lot of teams could be in that position with the portal opening now. We've seen it. What was the quarterback from Penn State last year? Mm-hmm. The backup quarterback was hitting the portal and known to be hitting the portal while the CFP was going on. Craziness, but
it is. There's no question about it. And here's the thing. I understand Fox is trying to do something with this tournament and blah, blah, blah. But why would you want to wait 3 weeks till you play your tournament after the season's over with?
What team would want to wait that long?
That's my point. That's my point.
Yeah, it's nuts. I've just, when I saw that, I was shocked. I didn't even, Don, truth be told, in all honesty, I didn't even know about the Crown tournament until 3+ weeks ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell's the Crown tournament?
Right.
And so then I found out about it, so now you've got the NIT, the CBI, the Crown. There's not enough teams to fill these things. And they want to expand the NCAA tournament. Get out of here.
I know. It's a mess. There's just no question about it. And it's all about money. It's all about money, and it never is going to change. That's the sad part. It's not going to change.
Well, the good thing for you, you're one day closer to golf season, my friend.
Oh, I'm not even that far away, man. I already played 9 holes now. Come on.
Oh, that's right. How was Florida?
Well, I went down there and we played 3 rounds when I was down there on my little trip in Naples. But I came back. I literally, I played Saturday. Let's see, what day was it? I think it was Saturday. Played Saturday. Played 9 holes. Was really happy. My wife and I went out to the Legends where we play, and a lot of the time. And actually, I was pleased because I played so badly in Florida. I thought maybe I should quit this game. And then I came back and really got off to a nice start with my first 9 holes. So kind of happy about it.
That's always a good start to the deal. So now we look forward to Indiana as they move forward. Basically, the coaching search will take center stage. I hate to, and I'm sure that there are several things that you'd like to talk about to put a bow on this season. It was great to see some performances by some of the guys like Anthony Leo and Trey Galloway.
Right.
Taking some guff, I'll give you, unnecessarily over their time. But to be honest, without those 2 guys, they would have been screwed this season.
Well, here's the thing, and I think we've talked about this before too, Jim. In my opinion, one of the reasons in the last Well, they obviously didn't do great the last third of the season, but they did well, much better than they did earlier this year with their toughness, competitiveness, defensive play. I thought this team got better when they changed the starting lineup, and Leo was in it, Galloway, and Luke Goody. All three guys with Indiana across that chest that have some pride in this program, in this university, and what Indiana stands for. And I thought those guys spearheaded whatever progress was made here at the end of the season and the better play that we saw because of those three players. I really believe that. And we're going to find out. This transfer portal is a big thing for Indiana this coming season, I think, because they're going to lose so many people. I don't know who's going to come back. Obviously, M'Baku and Renew both have eligibility left. There's a possibility Luke Goody could come back with a medical red shirt because I think he played just 10 games in his sophomore season, or maybe it was his freshman season. I think it was his sophomore year. At any rate, he came back at the end of that year and played 10 games. I think he probably will get a medical red shirt to play someplace, whether it's in Indiana or not.
I would be surprised if he leaves Indiana, to be honest with you.
I would too.
He loves being at Indiana. He's always wanted to be at Indiana. And what coach would not want a guy with that experience and his shooting ability? So
right, and he's a leader. He proved in one season at IU that he was a leader, that he was a communicator, and one of those guys that had pride in what he was doing because of what the jersey meant. So I think that's the big thing, but. Again, the new coach, whoever it may be, I think is going to have to go to work in that transfer portal, just like Woodson has tried to do the last couple of years or 3 years, whatever. I do think that the real key, however, to whoever Indiana hires is that guy has to understand what Indiana basketball is all about in regard to the culture, in regard to the fan base and the expectations of a fan base. He's got to be able to deal with those kinds of things. And so I think you've got to have an established guy, somebody that's been a head coach and has had success wherever he's been. I don't know who that's going to be at this point, and I wouldn't speculate as to who it should be at this point because that's up to Scott Dolson and the administration. But they have got to make the right choice this time because Indiana has had a very inconsistent scenario for its college basketball program for the last, 25 years now.
I agree. And the good thing is the candidates that seem to be available, again, none of us truly know. And let me be the first, and I'm the first one to say that. I guarantee you we've got a list that's probably a viable list, but we don't know who's going to come off that list, but of those guys, whether it's Mick Cronin, whether it's Ben McCollum, whether it's Brad Brownell or Grant McCaslin, these guys have won. They're winning. They're all in the freaking tournament right now. Right. So that's one good thing that that you would see, or unless it's someone that surprises us. But I don't expect that per se, but yes, it's going to be a college guy. But the good things, you look at Louisville, you look at Kentucky, you look at Michigan, all of those teams rebuilt completely by their new head coaches, and Michigan did pretty well. Louisville did pretty well. Kentucky did pretty well. There's other teams that they completely rebuild their rosters. That's the deal. Rebuilding a roster that works for you. And that I was watching Rick Pitino yesterday, and he said, when I get a group of guys, I don't try to conform them to me. I try to conform to them. And I think that's something else a coach has to be able to manage, but you got to bring in the guys that work with the system that you're trying to implement.
Well, and if Pitino said that he tries to acclimate himself to the guys he brings in, I question that a little bit, just a little bit. Because Rick Pitino is in many ways a Bob Knight type coach. He's an old school guy, and but he does every place he's been, he's won. I mean, you got to give the guy credit. I mean, he's a heck of a basketball coach. Whether you like the other stuff around him or not, he is a great basketball coach, and he's proven it because of all the places he's been and the success he's had at virtually every place he's been. So you got to give him credit for that. But here's the other thing. you've got to be able to work the transfer portal in this day and era. It's a totally different picture in that regard, number one. And I like Curt Cignetti and what he did at Indiana and what his philosophy is in regard to coaching. And that philosophy is I've got to find the right guys for my program. Character comes first, then whether or not they are talented enough to play for me. So those kinds of things, I think that's your priorities right there. Character first and then talent. It can't be the other way around. And whoever the coach is at Indiana, I hope he takes a look at Indiana kids first. And I'm sure whoever that will be will do that because it hasn't worked any other way. You've got to have a nucleus of Indiana players who can help you build that culture around.
Well, and fortunately for him, if they get Luke Goody back, and I think he would stay, you would have Luke Goody. You're going to have Trent Sisley, who is, although a freshman, he's on the other end. He would have bookends of the prototypical type of Indiana players that fans like to see with Luke Goody and Trent Sisley. Trent Sisley is going to be a 4-year player at Indiana. He's coming to Indiana because he wants to play at Indiana for Indiana. He's dreamed of that. So that's a great nucleus to keep if you can have that. And if there's a couple other guys he can keep off of that roster, we'll see. But it's going to be interesting. And how quickly this is able to happen now, it will depend solely on whomever. I would be pretty confident that Scott Dolson has his number 1 candidate, his number 2 candidate, and 3 and possibly 4 right now. And that's probably, it might be set up in place waiting for them to lose because that announcement would never come until they were out of the tournament.
Right.
And within a day or so of that happening, that announcement will come. So it could come anytime in the next 2 weeks.
Well, I'll confirm this much for you. I think Scott Dolson's been working on this for some time, just so you know.
Yeah. It didn't start 2 weeks ago.
No, it did not. It's been ongoing for some time.
And it's going to be great for Indiana fans. Fresh starts are always good. It just gives you it's like spring. It's a revitalization. And the one thing I know that whomever the name is, there's going to be a faction of IU fans that are like, oh, God, because I guarantee you I could put up 5 different names right now. And there's people just, no, not him. And you need to forget about that. Whomever it is your coach.
Right.
That's who your coach is going to be. So get behind it, accept it, roll with it. So
let's hope our fan base has some realism in them at this point. And I don't know that's
that, brother.
I know, but you better be realistic about what's going on right now in this country as far as the college athletics are concerned, and the portal and the NIL and how it's going to change again with revenue sharing. All of these things are playing a big part in college sports today. And because of that, and again, it boils down to money and all these other things that you wish didn't have anything to do with it, but it's got everything to do with it now. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm excited about whoever it may be, without question. I think whatever change has to be made at this juncture. And because I think we have kind of been in this lull period where it hasn't improved, that's where it's at. You've got to find somebody that can make your program better. And let's hope that's exactly what Scott Dolson's looking for. And I know he is. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, and I know he's looking forward to getting this over with as well. And then we'll have you for a couple more weeks, right?
Yep. We'll talk about the tournament and who's in and who's not and all those kinds of things.
How your golf game has gone.
We won't talk about that much because my golf game at the beginning of every year is the same. It stinks.
You know what? I played like just a little bit, and I was surprised on how well I hit the ball. But I shook my head knowing that I'm like, this is the best it's going to get for the rest of the year.
I know the feeling.
That's the sad part. Don Fischer, the voice of Indiana. Appreciate you, my friend, as always. I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Appreciate it. Thank you. See you, Jim.
You betcha.
The Fish joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, as always, from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. We've got more to talk about in this hour. We'll talk about the Big Ten got screwed in the seedings as well, I think. How does a team win the Big Ten tournament and end up with a 5 seed? Little surprising. Let's see. Wisconsin, I have to pull up their seeding. I can't remember. I don't even have the seedings pulled up. Also, I'm sure Pete is busy or already set up the ISB bracket picks, whatever you call it. But we'll get that rolling as well. Appreciate you being with us on this Monday from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. We're coming back right after this, and we'll talk about these brackets and whatever else you want to talk about on the backside. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at bendavischevrolet.com and bendavisford.com.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday. Glad to have you along as just looking over West Virginia. First team out, snubbed by the NCAA. They're not happy at all, of course, and neither is their AD made a statement about it. As a little surprising that they get left out again. Just what are you going to – there's no way. I never talk or complain about things like that, but there is absolutely no way North Carolina belongs in this tournament, and it's not over Indiana. It's over, first of all, West Virginia. I'm a little surprised Xavier got in, but see, North Carolina, some cheating SOBs. This is the same school that got away with academic fraud for 18 years. By the NCAA. So, boy, no surprise there. The weakest conference in all of college basketball, the ACC, and Duke, who went 1-12 in quad one games playing in that conference, gets a bid over a team that finishes 10-10 in the Big Ten. No, thank you. They didn't belong in over West Virginia either. So, it is what it is. Nothing's going to change. So the complaining about it, boy, did they ever. But that's also a name that I didn't mention that has come up a few times. Darren DeVries. He's the coach at West Virginia. But you know where he came from formerly before that? That's right. He was at Drake, but he's in his first season at West Virginia. I have to look up what they were last season. But, boy, first season coach is probably hard to get out of those positions. Don't know what his buyout might be, but I know I've seen his name brought up by people. So we'll see how that goes. But the SEC gets in. That's another thing. I don't have a problem with the SEC getting a ton of teams in. They deserve it. They were the best conference in college basketball this season. There's no doubt about that. But there are some teams that got in that just didn't deserve it. Didn't Oklahoma get in? How in the heck did Oklahoma get in? And the Big Ten's seeding. How does the Big Ten tournament champion get a 5 seed? That has to be the lowest seed ever for a Big Ten tournament champion, without question. As a matter of fact, Maryland has a higher seed than Michigan. Michigan finished one spot behind Maryland in the Big Ten regular season and won the Big Ten tournament, and they get a 5 seed. It makes no sense. We do have a great first round matchup of Kansas and Arkansas. I thought that for sure that Indiana was getting in. First of all, once I saw North Carolina, I was like, and it was early. I'm like, well, Indiana's in for sure. It's just a matter now of I'm sure that they're in Dayton and blah blah blah, and it never came up, and I was shocked. But so now you can just hope that North Carolina gets the crap beat out of them in the first game, just on principle alone. But Auburn, of course, the number 1 seed. Duke, the number 2, number 1 overall seed. I guess you could say that. Houston and Florida. Florida! I've been talking about Florida. We got to get K-Bro on tomorrow. Boy, those Gators looking pretty good. They win the SEC tournament. They get a number 1 seed. Houston, Kelvin Sampson with the number 1 seed. And that's another thing. I just knew when they were announcing the brackets that Indiana was going to be a 16, maybe a play-in 16 seed, and they were going to face Houston because it's long held. The NCAA loves to create matchups. Now, they have done that in the second round with a potential St. John's Arkansas matchup. If Arkansas can get past Kansas in their bracket, we'll see. But Auburn number 1, Louisville Creighton. How about that matchup? That's a little weird because both of those teams are pretty decent. Louisville kind of maybe they were seeded a little low. I'm not sure. Yeah, that's too low for Louisville. I think that they were higher than that. Was Creighton that low? Michigan will take on USC San Diego, Texas A&M Yale. Who are your upsets? Ole Miss makes it in. Chris Beard and his squad. Iowa State, of course, Ole Miss is the number 6 seed. Iowa State and TJ Ossenberger get a 3 seed. Marquette, Shaka Smart, New Mexico, Richard Pitino. That's a 7-10 game. And, of course, Michigan State, Bryant in the 2-15 matchup. Florida gets a Norfolk State. UConn, Oklahoma. Perfect example. Where are my SEC standings and whatnot? I had them pulled up a minute ago because I wanted to see this. Where wasn't Oklahoma just way underneath? They had like 4 games under. Oh, I keep finding the tournament bracket. I want the standings. SEC tournament. I don't want the tournament. I want the standings, people. But I'm pretty sure Oklahoma was like 6-10 or something like that. And even though it's a great league this year, I don't care. It does not make up for that. You can't be that far underneath in your own league and be that good. That means you had all of those opportunities, but couldn't get it done. Oklahoma way down. Oh, I'm sorry. No, they were 6-12. Are you serious? A 6-12 team that finished 9.5 games back because they were 20-13 overall, so a half a game better than Indiana, but 6-12 in conference play. There's no way. I'm sorry. Vanderbilt got in at 8-10. Now, you can make an argument for Vanderbilt. They were 20-12, 14-3 at home. I get it. Oklahoma, no. I'm sorry. There's no way a 6-12 conference team deserves to be in any NCAA tournament. But they're in. So we could argue that until the sun goes down and comes back up and goes down again. Yeah, grateful to have Don on. Thank you very much for the comments there, and appreciate everybody listening, no matter where or how. If it's on 97.7 ESPN, the Ref, always the right call down in Evansville or up in the region on the Voice of the Region, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, WJOB, and in Fort Wayne on Fort Wayne's only sports station, 1380 The Fan. Keep it locked on these radio stations all day. Glad to be back. I know that we've got you for the first 3 days this week, and then the tournament returns. And we won't be on the air, but we'll have the shows on Thursday and Friday, so you can catch those on YouTube. So just make sure and to be sure to not miss that, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the like button while you're thinking about it, people. We'd appreciate it. But yeah, it's so if you're an Indiana fan, you get to sit back, wait for the announcement of the next Indiana coach. And you know what? I'm speaking for myself, but I would think that Scott Dolson, I don't want to say relieved, and I would never say happy to not have made the tournament, but I think that it allows him to focus a little more on what he's doing, which, like I said earlier, I think that it doesn't matter. His number 1, 2, 3, and 4, they're already aligned. And those talks have to be pretty far along. As a matter of fact, I would be shocked now that Scott Dolson doesn't have his guy in theory. But people think that a lot, and this is, I'm not pretending that I have this inside information, yada, yada. Nope, not doing that. But I think when I say he has the guy 1, 2, 3, and 4, but we don't know how much they've been able to move forward with it because of the ongoing season. We see, you look back in history last year when teams were doing the very same thing, replacing coaches. And Louisville, Dusty May was going to Louisville. That was almost a done deal. and then it wasn't at the last second. So even late in the game, things change. So while I would imagine Scott Dolson has 1, 2, 3, and 4, that does not mean that 1, 2, 3, and 4 are locked in. There wouldn't be a 2, 3, and 4 if 1 was locked in. So I don't know that he knows for sure that he has the guy yet. That's the thing. How what's happening now goes on with that particular coach and their team matters. What if they were to go on a run? Does that change things for that coach? We don't know. We don't know. Jason brings up, how about his man Dusty May winning the Big Ten tourney? Can we ask him if he would reconsider staying in Michigan? Well, you know what? I almost sent out a tweet yesterday that Indiana fans, if you were watching the Big Ten tournament and watching Michigan cut down the nets, knowing that could have been you right now had Indiana made that move last season. And when people say that they couldn't have made it, bull crap. Yeah, you could have. Yes, you could have. I'm not saying Dusty May is without question the guy. I will say this. He went to Michigan and became the first coach in the history of the Big Ten tournament to win the tournament in his first season. He went to Michigan and took over a crap team that was in the crapper and nearly led them to a Big Ten regular season title, but led them to a Big Ten tournament title. Not bad. And he did it with a completely reconfigured team. I think there were 3 guys left over from their former team. So it can happen. And I think that I'm not saying Indiana's going to win the tournament next year, but if Indiana's not competitive next year, I would be shocked. I would be shocked. If Indiana gets the guy, the right guy, he's going to bring in the right kind of players. Well, Steve says he likes what Steve Alford said about the portal. He was right on. Of course, I don't know what Steve Alford said about the portal, so we can't talk about that. Michael thinks IU should go for the crown tourney. Great marketing. Yeah, I don't think so. I see it not. They don't need to play in a tournament, I don't think. So we'll see. Steve, you could tell us what Alfred said about the portal. That would be great. Rudy says IU basketball is almost as bad as his marriage. Holy crap, man. I don't really want to talk about that then. That's not good news. That's not good news. Heath says, good rumor down here in BBN. Not sure if that's sounds like Big Blue Nation. I'm not sure. Andrew, not going to Dayton tomorrow, but we'll be watching Indiana basketball in 70-degree weather. Baseball, misread that. He's going to be watching IU baseball tomorrow in 70-degree weather. Where are they playing? Are they at home? Is it going to be 70 tomorrow? That would be incredible. That would be very nice as well. Hey, we've got to take a break. We've got lots more coming up from the golf club. From the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Having another great day. Back with more right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, You can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the hard truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the hard truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue. And you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday. Well, lots to talk about as the tournaments have been laid out. At least the NCAA tournament has been laid out. And speaking of laid out, Indiana left out along with a few other teams. Now Indiana fans can kind of turn their attention to the coaching search, but it's still going to be a minute, unless the name is Mr. DeVries, Darren DeVries, who is at West Virginia, and ironically came there from Drake. So, and then you have Drake coach Ben McCollum, Brad Brownell. So, and speaking of someone mentioned a minute ago, they like what Steve Alford had to say, which it makes a lot of sense. Gritty sent this to me, so thank you. Let's hear a little bit of what Stevie Boy had to say about the payment. And yeah, it makes sense, but unfortunately, it is what it is.
I think you get a blueprint of what, we've been doing it a long time, and we develop a blueprint. Now, the blueprint changes and evolves. It's 5 years ago, I wasn't, on conversation saying how much you want to be paid. Never thought that would happen in college basketball. And I've always been a big proponent as the game and money has evolved and changed. I've never been one that said I don't believe student athletes shouldn't be paid. But the way it is now is ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. And it's changed our game. And so you got to adapt. We got to adapt, but every coach, every handshake I have now before games, that's brought up. Every game. Me and the opposing coach are going to talk about portal issues. And, where's academics at? Like, I've talked to my compliance guys. What's APR anymore? You can't control APR. It's a JUCO. You're going to replace 8-9 guys to a roster every year. The travel time that is across the country in these leagues. It makes no sense for that to be our model, but that is our model. So more than us, do we have to evolve as coaches? Yeah, we got to evolve of how now we recruit. Like, it used to be, hey, what's my degree going to look like? What's your facilities look like? What's your relationship with the team look like? Are you there for all practices? Are you a coach that dives into relationships and you're going to care for my child? You might as well throw all that stuff out, because the only question they're concerned about is what they're getting paid in the portal. And to me, that's a terrible model for an 18-year-old, because truth be told, then a lot of 18 and 19-year-olds are raising family members now. And that's not what you go off to college for. That's just not. And so that's frustrating, because I don't like our model at all. don't know how that's going to change now that the genie's out of the bottle. But you asked me a pertinent question, and I don't like the model that we currently have because it's not name, image, and likeness. That's not what it is. There's not that many college players that have that eval as a name, image, and likeness. Most of them are getting what they're getting before they ever produce. And that's not what it should. You should have to produce, then you receive. It's a bad lesson. And we shouldn't be sending kids off to college academically or in our profession to teach them bad models for when they're 25 and 26. Like I got 5 players now. NIL's done in 2 months. What happens to them? Are they going to be able to handle the real world now after having NIL for a couple of years at Nevada or wherever they've been? Are they going to really be prepared to handle the things that, oh, I'm not getting that money. I have to go earn that money. We're not really teaching them that. And I think that's something that people way above me have to really look at, because the NCAA and collegiate athletics should be about teaching life lessons, period, through athletics.
That was Steve Alford and his thoughts as to NIL and all that goes with it. And speaking of name, image, and likeness, Dustin Dopirak joins us from the Indy Star. He is the biggest recipient of name, image, likeness in the journalistic world.
No, he's not.
I'm kidding. Neither is Jim. Don't worry.
Yeah.
You know what? I know you didn't hear everything that Alfred had to say, and it all makes sense, but we can all say things that make sense. And we know the toothpaste is out of the tube.
Sure.
One thing about it is it's the NCAA, and they have never done anything right. They grew up being able to keep everything within a bubble, in their own bubble. And once there were some holes in that bubble, man, the air just started evaporating so fast, and the NCAA had no way of bandaging those holes up. They just got bigger, and boy, it was almost imploded in essence because it was such a bad model, and it just went from one to a 180-degree swing to the other. I don't know how you can put the toothpaste back in the tube now with where they are, but then you have I look at the other side of the coin. There's a lot of teams that aren't having these problems, that are being very successful, that are very well. So is this coming mainly from places where they're not having the success that some other teams are having? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they are. I mean, I'm not prepared with like Steve's records.
I know. But I had not heard it either. But
yeah, no, I mean, I saw the I saw that he had a comment. I'm like, okay, well, that's, if everybody's had one, and like a lot of coaches have had issues with it. I mean, the only thing I heard there that I was just like, like, you're not going to understand the real world. Like, we do, I don't know about you, but I mean, I have a guaranteed salary. Like, I mean, like, I don't have to, you have probationary employment and stuff like that. But like, I mean, most, like, we don't get paid the kind of money that they're making for NIL, but like, you have a guaranteed paycheck. It's not like, okay, well, the story has to be this good or you don't get your paycheck this week. It's guaranteed. You have an hourly salary. So, like, that's always an odd one for me. Like, you don't have to work for it. You're guaranteed it. Like, I mean, like, you do have to work for it, like the same way that they have to go play, like the rest of us have to go to work. But like, it's not like, okay, well, you have to be so good, or if like every hour is, is looked at with a fine tooth comb. And, if we thought you were only like 75% of your best self, you only get 75% of your paycheck. Like, when you sign up for your job, you are guaranteed that. You're guaranteed your medical benefits. Like, when you take a job, you negotiate and then you get what you get. Like, it's not like they can say, like, every once in a while, we're just going to just take a chunk out of you. I mean, like, there's furloughs, like, there's stuff, but for the most part, like, you have a guaranteed salary. So like, it's sometimes I hear that, I'm like, okay, like, what real world do you think everybody else lives in, that it's like that, like, dog eat dog, that basically, like, you have to, like, if that you have to be perfect every single day or you don't get paid. Like it's not like that for the most
And
part.
I have always wondered why, when you look at coaches' contracts, they're always laden with these bonus opportunities,
Sure, that too. Mm-hmm.
But they should be laden also with benchmarks that if you don't hit, you lose. If you,
I don't think anybody should have that. I mean, I think,
we're
full
talking about
disclosure, I'm on our union,
multi-million-dollar contracts,
but,
though.
like,
yeah, but you're not making multi-millions of dollars a year.
No, but I mean, like, people negotiate contracts so that they're guaranteed. Like that's the reason. And the reason is like, you have a mortgage, like you got to know that so much money is coming in every month and you got to pay it.
Well, I'm not saying it should but I'm talking about the bonuses. The caveats should be equal to the bonuses. If you have this opportunity for extra above and beyond, then
you can have
should also
taken out of you.
You need to reach, and I'm not saying as high, maybe not as high, but give them more of a reason to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's no reason not to succeed. I mean, like no one wants to fail. No one takes a job. No one takes a head coaching job to get fired. You're going to probably more likely than not. But like it's not like not many coaches say like, I got that for 4 years. We're just gonna come in here and go 5-20 every year, and I'm only gonna do this for 4 years. I'm gonna get fired, and I'm gonna never coach again, and I'm just gonna ride that buyout check for the rest of my life. Like nobody does that. These guys are wired a certain way. But to get back to the initial point, like I do think that it is a struggle. And to your initial point, like it is the reason it's this bad is because they didn't grapple with the idea of the idea that, okay, well, these guys are bringing a lot of value into the school, and we should really think about what we're doing here. I mean, they fought tooth and nail for so many years, and we should remind ourselves again, the NCAA is a membership organization. Okay, like we think about it every once in a while. We try to lay this all at the feet of the people that work over off the canal, and that's not who's making the decisions at the end of the day. It's the presidents, the ADs, all that. When they put all these ideas together, like it's not like it's just Charlie Baker or Mark Emmert or all of them that were just fighting so hard against it. Like they were fighting that hard against it because that's what the member institutions asked for. That is what they wanted. They did not want this to happen. And it just basically, it reached a point that they couldn't do it anymore. And part of the reason, again, why it reached that point is because of COVID. When you got to the point that you were asking these guys, not these guys, these men and women to prop up the institution in the midst of the pandemic, they asked themselves the question, well, isn't this the point that we have to say, well, they're functioning like employees now, like they're like, we're asking them to play in the midst of a pandemic. And because if they don't, then this business crumbles, then we're not going to make it. And so that was kind of the breaking point to say, okay, well, there's got to be an allowance for something. And they finally broke through and said NIL is going to be okay. When that seemed the general concept of you should be able to make money on your likeness, what is ostensibly yours, like that seemed to finally be there. So, okay, well, we're not going to pay you, but we'll let other people pay you. And they really didn't just seem to have a sense of just how out of whack that could get if they didn't set kind of hard parameters for it. And so now it's a total mess. And it is, it is harder to be a college coach now than it is to be a professional coach, like a lot harder.
Oh, much harder.
It's just, like when you professional coaches, like, first off, someone else is negotiating those. NIL is too, but it's just like, it's multi-year contracts, and, like they can't opt out of it every single year unless, the contract's wired that way, for the most part. Like you don't have to rebuild your team every single season. You have a couple guys, like if you're on a 12-person, if you've got 15 guys on an NBA team, you probably have, 4 or 5 guys, like that go into free agency every year. And a lot of those cases, you decided you're going to let them walk anyway. And you have a few spots that you could fill, and, moves you can make with trades and stuff like that. But like, obviously you can have some years where you have more movement than others, but, like you don't have to re-recruit your whole team. You don't have to re-recruit every single player and figure out what you're going to have. Like you have a base sense of this is, where it's going to go. And if you're going to trade a guy, like you obviously have discussions with your GM, president of basketball ops, make decisions on that, all that kind of thing. And, and it happens within a pretty, a couple pockets, whether it's, beginning of July, end of June, beginning of July, and then, the middle of February when they have the trade deadline. And so all of that becomes manageable, like it's not utter madness where you have to like go, spend your entire, months of like April, May, and July recruiting these kids, knowing though that every year when they're on your team, you have to re-recruit them. And then you have to have this, a new recruiting phase where it's like if you lose anybody, if you just want somebody else, you have to go into the portal and go recruit then. And so it just turns into utter madness. And again, like, NBA coaches don't have to go recruit, there's some recruiting involved, but like, they don't have to fly to every single, basketball warehouse in the country to go watch AAU tournaments, like it's easier. And so like, if you're a college coach, like it is going to feel like it's breaking you down. So like, I mean, like you're going to have an opposition to it. And I get it. I get the annoyance with it, but it's just some of the justifications when it's just like, this doesn't help them from the real world. Like, yeah, everybody does get a guaranteed salary, like it's different. Like there is more negotiating going on. Like there's stuff that they do more than anybody else has to do, but yeah. So I don't know. It is nuts, but it's just, it is, I guess weird just to see everybody kind of falling on the same, old cliche reasons for why it's nuts.
Yeah, and so Indiana fans got to watch Dusty May and his team cut down the nets, and all I could think about was, boy, I hate it for Indiana fans because that could have been Indiana had they been proactive and made a move that would have been very difficult to make. Granted, it would have been impossible to make because of the situation,
Sure.
but should have probably been made, and not because of hindsight, because this was the conversation last year, and you get what you get. Now, hopefully it'll work out and things work out the way they're supposed to. Maybe that's how that was supposed to work out. Definitely for Dusty, worked out great. Congratulations to him. Texted him, congratulating him as it should have. First coach to ever win the tournament in his first year in the Big Ten. So that is a great accomplishment for him and his team. So, but now Indiana gets to do that. And this is something that can happen because you look at Michigan, you look at Louisville, you look at Kentucky, you look at so many other teams that were brand new and not entirely new rosters, but you got new coaches that brought in plans, that brought in programs, that brought in a system and brought in players to work within that system. And it worked. And that's something that Indiana fans have not seen. It's been more like a hodgepodge of things to fit into, I don't even know what kind of a system. People talked about Michigan. Well, so you can run two bigs. That's not right. You're not compared. That's not two bigs. I mean, my God, Danny Wolf is a point center. I've never seen a guy that big that handles the ball as well as he does. Now, he doesn't just bring the ball up the floor. He's bringing the ball up the floor, standing out on the point and dribbling between his legs and just doing things. And I'm like, how is that possible? And then knocking down a three if he wants to. He's a freak. He is there are GMs salivating to get that dude into the league.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, like that's the one thing that I just keep saying is just, you just have to have, you just have to have a sense of what you want it to be. You can make a lot of different things work. I mean, to your point, like, one of the big reasons why the Cavs have taken such a big leap this year is, I think Kenny Atkinson had a better at JB, basically Cleveland's last coach, JB Bickerstaff, he goes to Detroit and they're winning, like crazy, I mean, like Detroit has had a massive, gigantic turnaround in a year. But basically they moved on to Kenny Atkinson, and the reason they have the best record in the NBA is because Evan Mobley has become that type of player. I mean, basically Cleveland has been playing two bigs for a while, and it's looked odd and stood out, and they played a whole lot slower under JB, and kind of looked at this idea like, okay, well, we've got to be a grinded out team. And Atkinson kind of looked at Mobley and said, man, I think you can do a lot more. Like I think you've got ridiculous talent, and you're going to be more perimeter oriented than you have been. We're going to trust you to shoot threes and handle the ball in the perimeter, and we believe you can do it. And the fact that they've a big part of the reason why they've made a leap is that they believe in Evan Mobley, and so it's a similar scenario, with Danny Wolf. Looking at him as a guy who can do that kind of thing. But like there has to be like I said, there has to be a system, there has to be an idea, there has to be a direction, and you just have to have a sense of what you want things to be. And it's interesting to hear, Wolf talked about that, and like that was the way. I will say this: like that was the way Mike Woodson was talking about Malik Renew when they got him, and it didn't necessarily come to pass that way. There's certainly, I mean, he's brought the ball up, shots and threes and stuff like that, but he hasn't necessarily been the perimeter force, I guess, that they thought he would be. Obviously, injuries had something to do with that. But I remember that's the story I wrote before I moved off the beat, was the idea that Renew was kind of further along in the sense of being a perimeter oriented big than Trace was, and obviously Trace has gotten in the league and never really developed that perimeter game that we talked about, but he's, got a solid rotation spot with the Warriors and doing continued good things with them on a team that's getting really good. But and so you can get there in the league that way. But that point being, that's what Renew was supposed to be. So in theory, if Renew was that guy, you could pair him with Omar Ballo, but he would have to be just a lot more perimeter oriented than he was. Have the ability to shoot it better, and all those things, and be closer to what Wolf was. So it's just, I mean, like you can. Whatever comes down to, it's like you can play a two big lineup, but you have to know what you want that two big lineup to do. And it just never seemed that there was this sense that they had an idea, an entire identity of who they were as a two big lineup, and was just sort of like, well, these are two of the five best guys, so they have to play, And I mean, like when it was Trace and Race, that was a little different because those guys had been around for so long. And Race was really versatile, but like you also didn't look at Race as the guy that you had to run the offense around. Like, Race scored garbage buckets, like it wasn't like you were running a whole bunch of stuff for him. He was getting offensive rebounds. He was getting, high-low stuff. I mean, like it wasn't like you were running a whole bunch of stuff to make sure Race Thompson got the ball. Once it's, Renew, and whoever else they had running with him, Ballo, whoever, Renew had to be a guy they were focused on. And and sometimes that worked and sometimes it didn't. So, but yeah, I mean, it's, Dusty's done a heck of a job putting that team together. I mean, that was, didn't get to watch a ton of it this weekend. But man, that Donaldson play was unbelievable. And, yesterday was,
my question was, I was watching that, I'm like going, really? How do you not have two guys at the free throw line, make him go around you?
Yeah.
It reminded me of when Romeo Langford was a senior in high school. David Bell, I believe, was the guy, and it was the exact same situation. They let David Bell come the length of the floor, put up, except he didn't get to the rim. He had to put up an 8-footer or 6-footer and knocked it down for the win. But they let this guy get all the way to the rim. Who was it? UCLA that did that several years ago.
It's more than several. It was Tyus Edney. It was 1995.
Yes. Wow. See, that's how bad.
Not several. It's 30.
Oh man, come on, dude! You're making me feel old.
Hey, me too, man. Me too. Like that stung for sure.
The fact that it's been that long since something like that has happened shows you that. I'm like, dude, everybody, they were afraid to get in front of him. They were afraid to foul him.
Yeah, no, they were, and I mean, he had just such a head of steam, and yeah, I mean, he did kind of a hand switch thing in the paint, but like they just did a really good job of the screening for him, just getting him a runway, and nobody really got in his way. It was really impressive.
Indiana fans can now just wait for the announcement of the new coach, which will still be anywhere from a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You just don't know, depending upon whom that it is and what they do. So, but here's my thing, and I've said this: it doesn't matter what name that you could put up. You could put up Brad Brownell. You could put up Mick Cronin. You can put up McCaslin. You can put up Darren DeVries. You can put up Ben McCollum. Everybody's going to have oh, no, I don't want that guy. And there's several that, oh, yeah, that would be great. I no matter whom it is, I don't have a dog in the fight, but man, I just hope that people just accept it because, first of all, that's how it's going to be, and just deal with it. It is. You have to understand you're better off than what you were, no matter what. Indiana would be better off if they hired you as coach.
No, they would not.
Yes,
no,
they would.
I can't coach your little league team, Jim.
I have complete confidence that you would have enough intelligence to put smart people around you to do it, because that's what I would do. I would make sure that I was surrounded by people that I would do everything.
The thing that I would do that would be smart is I would immediately resign the job.
Don't do that, Food. You want to buy out, brother. You want to buy out.
That's fair. But I can't coach your little league team. Like I don't have a playbook anywhere. Like it's not like I'm sitting on. I've watched a whole lot of basketball, and in that time retained not nearly enough to draw up one single play. So I'm not the guy to do that. But no, I mean, I think more to the point, like I had just a little kind of discussion on Twitter about like remembering what the just the reaction to Woodson was. And so, and I recall it being, everyone was sort of a little bit sketchy about it, but did seem to come around on the idea of, oh, they're having Thad Matta being a part of this. They're having Dane Fife being a part of this. Like, okay, like those are a couple that, I trust that. And I say, okay, well, Woodson's got this NBA background, and maybe you bring these two and have them be a part of it and go get some other guys who can really recruit. And then you have the whole package that you could put together, and that makes sense. And so, I think people came around to it, but like there were some people that were like, yeah, that's exactly how I remember it. There were some people like, I hated this from the beginning. And part of it is to be like, I was the guy who told everybody that this wasn't going to work. And the thing about it is that's going to happen. Like there are going to be people who, whoever they hire, think it's a bad idea. And there are going to be people who think whoever they hire think it's a good idea. There's like, it's Indiana. Like there's going to be controversy. It's going to be a thing that people fight about. And so, I think there's a few things to it. Like, well, one, like whatever happens, like what has to happen is that, whether the fan base is bothered or not, like, they do, like the people that have deep pockets have to get together and make sure that the money is there. Like that's the most important thing that has to happen, to make sure that the money is there for NIL and for everything else for that matter. And, like obviously that's other people's money, but, that's what they need. They're going to need just to have the backing from the people that have the money to, to create backing. But, I mean, there's going to be once it's not Brad Stevenson, it's not Dusty May, it's not going to make everybody happy. Like it's a question of, you're shooting for, 60 to 70% approval rating. If you get that, you feel pretty good about yourself, and you'll probably get that at the end of the day. I mean, I think, the other thing I kind of said in the middle of this Twitter conversation is like, fans are going to talk themselves into it, because like, what's the point of being miserable and staying that way? Like there are some people again that will just, hold on to the idea of, I want to be the guy who said this was dumb and I want to be right. And I'm going to hold on to it for 4 years. Those people obviously exist. But there's no reason if you're an Indiana fan not to get behind it. Like if there's no reason to like hold out and say, I'm going to hate this guy or I'm not going to give it a chance. It's like, that guy coaches your team the next 4, like if you give him a 5-year contract, like it's a 4-year deal at the end of the day. Like, I mean, if it don't work in 4 years, they'll move on, whether it's a 5-year contract or 7-year contract or whatever it is. At IU, you generally get 3 to 4 years to get it right. So, like people will come around just on the basis of they don't want to be miserable for 4 years. And that'll be enough to get you what you need as far as fan backing and everything else. Now, obviously, they're going to be in the same boat as everybody else, that if it doesn't work in a year, they're going to be mad, and that's just the nature of the beast. And in this case, it's going to be different. I mean, I think for as much as, whether you look at Woodson as a good idea or bad idea, at the very least, the one thing it did was say, okay, you tried the alum, you tried the night guy, and it didn't work. And obviously there are people, in the fan base that think that's dumb, that even was necessary to be done. But like, I covered the team long enough to know that there was this fracture that was there all the way since the Knight firing. And, this desire among a lot of people to, bring in somebody who had played for Knight, coached under Knight, or just to and to kind of bring back all the Knight people and make, sort of reconnect and basically get finally end some of the fissures that go back to that. And if this did nothing else, it did that, and some of it's, like you obviously have age factors and everything like that. And obviously Coach Knight actually passing. But I mean, I think that, like, even though this created kind of its own new wounds, it repaired a lot of those. And I think that had to happen. And so at the very least, I think you take that part out of the conversation going forward. And it might be in some cases to be like, shoot, we wanted that really bad and it didn't work. Oh man, I guess we shouldn't have been asking for that, or I don't know. But I mean, I just remember one of the things I did when Woodson was hired was call some people that were teammates of his in the 80s, and they were just overjoyed. And there were a lot of players who felt like they didn't feel like a real part of the program anymore until that happened. And so, and you could go into all kinds of discussions about what should or should not have been done as far as Knight was concerned, considering, again, like, obviously, a big part of the reason he got fired is he did stuff. And, it had a zero tolerance, order and everything like that, and continued to, create problems for himself. But that all the same, there was still that feeling among a lot of guys that, hey man, this guy made me as a player, as a person. And I feel like you guys have erased him. And they took, years trying to recreate a connection, finally got him back on the court, and then got one of his guys. And Woodson was so openly pro Knight the entire time he was there, brought him to practices, all that kind of stuff.
Except for in his coaching philosophies.
Well, I mean, you couldn't coach that way anymore.
Well, no, but I mean, at least he did use the 3-point shot. He used it a hell of a lot more than Woodson did.
Yeah, well, I mean, right.
There was a purpose to the offense.
Right. There, I mean, like yes, he obviously wasn't at the level. And so, yeah, I mean, and that's obviously true, but you still had but I'm saying that moves forward, and that way you don't have, that's one thing that's not going to be a piece of whatever reaction comes next. I don't think so. Like, you're not going to have this, there was always like a story after every hire.
And I agree with everything you said. And the funny thing is, they could have probably hit that mark and appeased everybody with Dusty May last year.
I mean, they could. Well, I mean, but there's also it,
because you're getting the good side of Knight, and you're not getting a guy that acted like Knight.
Right. But the other issue is, like, I mean, as far as when you let guys go, like, it's like, I still think that's tough. I still think to say, like, 3 years, you make the tournament twice, you don't miss it once, and you're out. Like, I mean, you
if
better
it was all
know.
Based on numbers, I would get that argument. But here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot more behind the scenes, and that was known. The lack of recruiting, the lack of recruiting effort, just the way the entire laissez-faire attitude that seemed to be around the program. All of these consultants that live out of town, $440,000 a year on consultants, and Armand Hill. So what the hell? I mean, to me, that's
Armand Hill's director of ops.
Right. Well, I put his salary on to include it in those three consultants. But the director of ops is usually a guy that's an up and coming coach that actually is doing something with the program. Haven't seen or heard anything that. It's.
I mean, I'm sure he does something. I mean, I'm sure he's.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he goes to cigars and lights them and all of that. But this has been a program that has not been run to win, and that had to be that was seen and known. This stuff was known on the inside. That's why, and the only reason
it should have happened last year, in my opinion. Not just based on wins and losses, because that's hard to do, and I agree with you. But when you have the other to back it up, that's when you just say, you know what, I just don't think this is working out. We appreciate it, but we've got to move on. And this is a great opportunity, and it was, and they missed the boat.
Yeah, I mean, that's not an easy trigger to pull.
No, it's not.
Because I mean, first off, like you better get Dusty, and Dusty better work.
But hard decisions are not easy to make.
No, they're not. They're not. I mean, but it is one of those things where it's like, okay, you're already you have a reputation. Like you're building a reputation of, whether that's fair or not. In a lot of cases, I don't think it's necessarily fair, because it's like if you dig into like all the decisions that have been made and when they've been made, that like, especially from an AD standpoint, they make sense. But like the rep of IU basically is that they pull the trigger fast, and that all you have to do is miss a tournament 1 year and they're ready to toss you off over the boat. And so when that's your rep, then they're like, they'll even do that for an alum. They'll even do that for a friggin' All-American, man. And it's just and basically like, their thing is like, that's cutthroat. That's where your job goes. That's where your career goes to die. Like if you want to be back in the Ohio Valley in 2 years, or in 4 years, like go to Indiana, because it's going to throw your entire career off. Like that's that kind of move is what puts you in that position now. But like, you got it. Like, I mean, you can do it, and you better nail it. Basically, they would have had to get Dusty, and Dusty would have had to win, and so like then and Dusty would have had to win a lot, and Dusty would have had to be your guy for 10, 15 years. He
did do that.
And maybe he was, and maybe that was the move, but it isn't. I'm saying it's not an easy trigger to pull. Again, it's not especially not easy to do it. When it's an alum, when it's like very, very connected alum, like it was not an easy trigger to pull. And so,
I'm beating a dead horse. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
There's a point in it. So just we'll see where they go now, and see what's up next. And that is how it'll go. But it's going to be a little bit, and you'll have to wait till they lose to find out who that guy is. Hey, we've got to take a break. We've got the great Dustin Dopirak, the beat writer for the Pacers from the Indy Star, with us, and we'll talk about the Pacers, get caught up on where they are as they break a little losing streak and get a win on the road. Solid win, but then they lose one to the Bucks. So back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Maria in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more.
with a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music. You can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday. Dustin Dopirak with us from the Indy Star. And man, the Pacers, Pascal Siakam's going to miss the game for personal reasons in Dustin's latest piece at the Star. And they got some other guys that are on the questionable list. Tyrese Halliburton, Aaron Nesmith, Miles Turner. Man, basically starting lineup looking a lot of holes in it right now.
Yeah, looking bleak for tonight, and obviously it's not an easy road trip going up against Timberwolves. Minnesota got the Jazz last night, and obviously that's a team that's tanking. But Anthony Edwards had like 41. I mean, he looked fantastic last night. So that's going to sting. I mean, obviously, in that case, their probably best bet to get you some points is Siakam, and he's going to be away for a little bit. I have no idea how long he's going to be away. He's, for personal reasons. I don't know what those are. But yeah, Halliburton's got a back thing. I know he was complaining about it a little bit in the locker room after practice or after Saturday night's game. Nesmith, that's the ankle basically that he missed 35 games with, which, I mean, pretty remarkable actually that he's gone, since he's been back, he hasn't missed a game. Basically when you miss 35, and obviously they put a lot of work into that, but you would think somewhere there's an injury management game, basically that you're going to put a lot of pressure on that thing. And at some point it's going to, it's that joint's going to need some rest. So not surprised that obviously that's at least up for discussion. Don't know where Miles Turner got this hip contusion, but I mean, he's a big dude, so he's he's going to make a lot of contact with a lot of people. So we'll see who plays and who doesn't. I'd be surprised if they go 0 for 3 as far as that's concerned, if they don't get any of them. But obviously, again, they'll definitely be missing Siakam, and I would suspect that at least one of those 3 won't play, and it puts you in a tough spot. I mean, the Timberwolves have been really, really good lately. That's a pretty talented team. I'm trying to think of how many they won in a row, and I think it's a lot. But they're 40 and 29. I mean, the West is so much better. As far as depth in the East, basically teams that are 7, 8, 9, 10 in the West would be 5, 6, 7 in the East. I mean, they've won 8 in a row. Phoenix, Philly, Charlotte. It's been a kind of easy stretch for them schedule wise. Phoenix, Philly, Charlotte, Miami, San Antonio, Denver, Orlando, Utah. But there's obviously a couple in the middle there. Denver and Orlando in particular. Some pretty tough games. So that's not going to be an easy one to pull off in Minneapolis tonight. So tough break. And Milwaukee obviously losing that one on Saturday really stung. Basically their bench really struggled. Nesmith and not that plus minus is like the biggest thing in the world, but I mean like they were plus 27 when Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard were on the floor. Were one of the two. Each of those guys posted plus 27s, and Benedict Mathurin and TJ McConnell were minus 34. So that's how rough of a night the bench had. Starters were pretty terrific. They weren't able to pull that one out, and that's obviously a game for 4th place in the East. You're looking at they're in really a 3-way race there with Detroit trying to get that 4 seed and trying to get a home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs. Basically, I mean, the presumption would be that they would be playing Milwaukee, but Detroit has been good enough. Obviously, again, they've just gotten so much better this year, and so they're a problem. They're back to down a half game because Milwaukee lost to the Thunder last night on the second night of a back-to-back. Pacers kind of fortunate that the Bucks had that scenario where right after playing them, they had to go deal with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander because he's just unbelievable. And Thunder were terrific last night, so the Pacers are back within a half game instead of a game back, but they lose the tiebreaker. Basically, the Bucks have take the season series 3-1. The Pacers had a chance to tie it and didn't. So that one's going to sting, and so obviously they got a chance to lose this one tonight too and have it go back to a full game when they go home. They do get to stick around at home for a little while, and that should help. But a little bit of a stumbling block here.
Yeah, and the bench has been good for the Pacers. It's just not of late. And TJ McConnell, who is the de facto leader of that squad, I guess you would say, as he is looked as the
veteran point guard.
not,
Yeah, I mean,
not necessarily the sixth man all the time, but the veteran, like you said, the guy who the head of the second unit. But they just didn't shoot well. They like Wisconsin yesterday. Man, they have been lighting. They set a Big Ten record for hitting threes the day before or whenever, and couldn't hit water from a boat in that championship game.
Yeah,
they were probably, their legs go out. And the Pacers, they've been playing a lot of road games because of the Big Ten tournament. They've had to go out of town, as you are right now. So it affects things, but hopefully they get back on rolling and as they get closer to the tournament time.
Yeah, no, I mean they need to win some big ones. I mean they do, like, eventually they're gonna need to beat some good teams. I mean they made it, like beating Philly on Friday on the road. I mean Philly had some guys you've never heard of. They did also they had Jalen Hood-Schifino, who kind of was on a 2-way contract over there. Jalen got to play, and even last night Philly managed to beat Dallas, and Jalen had 19 points. So he's kind of getting a boost, kind of his career. I thought he looked okay. But still, I mean, they had to dig deep. Jeff Doughton was their starting point guard, and he went for 24 points. He actually put a scare in the Pacers a little bit. But the Pacers were fortunate enough to get that one. But they've got to beat some teams that are a little bit more difficult to beat. They obviously, they're going to catch some breaks. When they come back home, I think they get Dallas on Wednesday, and the Mavericks are very, very hobbled. They get Brooklyn Friday, Saturday. Obviously, that's a team, some young, hungry guys, but is a team that does not want to be making a push for the play-in round. So you got 3 this week that could help you get a little bit right, but then you get Minnesota again, the Lakers again. You're looking at, obviously a good possibility. I would think that LeBron's back by then. Coming back to Los Angeles, they still have the Thunder on the schedule. They have some easy ones left on the board, but they've also got some real contenders left, and they've got to be able to get some wins in that one because it's just going to really come down to the wire with them in Milwaukee and Detroit, and basically they want to get themselves in the best position they can. I think you want to get the 4, but if you don't get the 4, you want to keep the 5 because I think you'd still rather play Milwaukee than get in. You basically have to play the Knicks. I think you prefer that. And obviously, at some point, the Knicks can get Brunson back, and you prefer not messing with those guys. I don't think you love the idea of Milwaukee versus the Knicks, but I think it's still the better option.
Yeah, and then after the game up in Minnesota, they have 3 straight home games against teams that, well, you like to say should win, but that's not. It's
they tend to mess around. They have a tendency to mess around.
Why is it that with teams that they should beat? I heard somebody say it the other day. We have a problem getting up for teams that they're supposed to beat.
Jenny Busick said she particularly said they have a problem getting up for teams that are missing guys, and it's for whatever But the one thing, we had a little bit of conversation like this, like a post hoc conversation in the locker room about this, and it's sort of but it was basically like it's like, man, you basically someone said kind of, you writers don't realize that, like, when these guys show up from the G League, they got nothing to lose, and it's just like, all right, like and if they get going, then it's a problem. Like, it's more difficult than you think. He's like we've been doing this since, like October, November. Like, we're beat, we're exhausted. And these guys come in and they're playing for their, they're trying to put film out there for their next contract and everything like that. And like, like these guys want to bust you. I mean, they want it bad. And so, like, it does take a minute. And especially like if they make shots, then it's way more, then they're tough. Like, and the Pacers eventually did, in this game, basically against Philly, kind of decide, all right, well, we're just going to dial the pressure up. We're going to get the ball to the rim and bully you, and you're not going to be able to stop us. And they eventually kind of switched to that and said, all right, like, let's just do this and get out of there. And kept throwing the ball, to the rim, getting Siakam and Turner involved, and they were able to just bully him eventually. But it is not an easy thing, but it is a tendency that they have, over time, and they've done that not just in March and April, but they've done it in February and January and December and the whole bit. They messed around with Brooklyn in January. And they were missing a bunch of guys, and obviously they're kind of openly tanking. And it's sometimes it's not easy, and again, you got to play 82, and so and over the course of it, you do start to feel like, okay, this one's a more important one than that one, and it is what it is. But I mean, they can't leave any of those on the board. They don't have any room for error on this. Like they can't, they got to go 3-0 next week. When they get back, they got to win all those 3 games. They got Dallas, Brooklyn, Dallas and Brooklyn twice. You can't leave one of those on the board. You've got to get all 3 of those. And especially if they lose tonight, if they go out and get beat by Minnesota tonight, and certainly if they're missing 2 or 3 starters, there's a good chance that's going to happen. They better come in and run the table next week. Then it's probably good. They probably also need to get one of the 2 the following week against Minnesota and the Lakers before they go on the road again. They absolutely have to go and beat the Wizards in Washington. You have to take that game because then you got the Thunder at their place, and that's a super tough team to beat. That's probably gonna be the hardest game they play the rest of the year. So you got to take advantage of the ones that you get and not mess around with those. If you leave one of those on the table, that's how you lose pace, and that's how you find yourself in the 6th seed.
Dustin Dopirak, the Indy Stars beat writer for the Pacers and all-around sports general knowledgeist. What a title.
I'm calling myself knowledgeist.
A knowledgeist.
I'm going with that.
Our friend Mike DeCourcy's a bracket analyst, so you were just a sports knowledgeist. I love that.
Shout out to Mike DeCourcy, Elizabeth Forward High School. Cheers.
There you go. And can't wait to talk to him tomorrow to see how well he did on his brackets. Probably pretty well. I think everybody missed Indiana except for the NCAA. They had other opinions on that, but appreciate you. Make sure you're giving Dustin a follow. Stay with him, all of his coverage in the Indy Star. Be a subscriber. Keep local papers alive, baby.
Please do.
Appreciate you, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim.
Back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on the backside of this break. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday, getting your week started off as we head into the NCAA tournament week. Begins tomorrow, actually, with the first 4 in Dayton, and Indiana is not on that list. A little surprising, as they probably should have been, but they should have been only because of who got in, not because they deserved to play in the NCAA tournament, in my opinion. But this was just a soft year. And I don't know what, for those that argue the tournament needs to be expanded, I don't know what argument you're laying on this year. When a team like North Carolina gets in, you don't need more teams. You don't need more room. The only reason North Carolina got in is, as Greg sent me a text, that alone accounted for an extra $104,000 for the ACC, but who only had 3 teams going in, 3 teams that deserved to go in. So they squeezed a 4th one in, and I don't care that Bubba Cunningham was in the damn room or not. He's the chairman of the freaking board. If you want to pretend that it had no bearing when it is this skewed, when all of the national pundits are doing the same thing, looking at, they're going, they're trying to do it without doing it. They're a lot of them, the CBS guys are not going to blatantly call it out, but Seth Davis did it as probably as well as anybody, but bad. But it's not like they deserved to get in and didn't. North Carolina just didn't deserve to get in. And as a matter of fact, it's not Indiana that got screwed. It's West Virginia. West Virginia was the team ahead of Indiana. They're the one that got left out, and they're the ones that got screwed over. And they're not happy about it. Their athletic director released a statement about it and saying that he was just dismayed and in shock that his team was left out, as he should be. And the funny thing is, they never, ever addressed North Carolina. They talked all around it. Now, I'm talking about the committee guys, but they did not talk about the fact that they were 1-12 in quad 1 games. They had a quad 3 home loss. But they get away with it. What are you going to do? Now everybody gets to turn toward the fact of waiting for Indiana's next coach to be decided. So that will be where all attention is focused for Indiana fans. Of course, the women did make it into the tournament. I think got a number 9 seed. So congratulations to Terry Morin on another successful season and making it into an NCAA tournament with a tough year, but they did enough to do what they needed to do to get in. Where are they headed to play? I don't remember, but congratulations to the ladies for making it into the tournament. Well, who is going to be Indiana's next coach, man? That is the question of the hour. Unfortunately, it will not be answered in this hour. A lot of people want a lot of different people. Someone posted a post a minute ago that I really liked, and I starred it, but it basically, I just wanted to give you credit, but it basically said, today it takes a coach with, there we go, Michael. It takes an extremely unique set of skills to be a college coach in today's era. Yes, that is dead on. Because you look at some of the guys that are successful, they're not all you've got Bruce Pearl, who is established. He's a veteran. Kelvin Sampson, number 1 seed, established, a veteran. Then you got John Shire. He's a young buck. Been in the role for a few years now, but he was an assistant before that. Todd Golden at Florida, young guy, killing it. Florida may be the best team in the country. They have handled business. They have handled Auburn twice, I think. So it does not take, it just takes good coaching. Now, I I don't have a dog in the fight, but we'll see how it turns out. We get to talk about it all again tomorrow with Mike DeCourcy and crew. We'll see if we can get Cabro on as well to chat it up as Florida making a good run. But appreciate everybody joining us on the program today. Couldn't do it without you. We're back to do this again tomorrow. I hope you go out and have yourselves an extremely awesome day. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.